All I was doing was just waking up, making breakfast, going down to Starbucks, buying my $6 latte or whatever, doing my work at Starbucks, going home and going to bed. And I was just thinking, my lease is coming up and I'm gonna have to pay $6,000 to keep doing this. And I just thought, yeah, screw it, let's just leave. I don't need to be here. Let's just leave.
It's absolute project impossible. I couldn't do it because I knew that it would make me so damn unhappy that I would do everything in my power to not go back. No, I don't think I couldn't imagine going back to London. That would be crazy. Well, what are you talking about?
Once something becomes your comfort zone, it's time to leave. Because that keeps you constantly expanding. You expand your self-definition of who you are. You expand the places where you become comfortable in the world.
Our commute to work.
We always wanted to travel for years, like super long term.
100. Okay, I give you 120.
We were living in the Silicon Valley, and most people are trying to get into the Silicon Valley, and we grew up there, so we were like trying to get out. So it started out, I asked my boss, we already, at Upwork, we have 1 day a week that everybody in the entire company is remote. You can work from home. And so I negotiated 2 days a week. And slowly the 2 days a week became 3, became 4, became 5. And then at one point, I think I kind of said as a joke to my boss at the time that maybe I can work while I'm traveling. Surprisingly, she was super supportive. And 1 year later, here we are.
So the digital nomad thing is really different from the traveler who's just here having fun. They'll be here this weekend, maybe a week, and then they're gone and on to the next place. So it's two very different lives.
The biggest challenge, though, is dealing with time zones. It's difficult to overlap from Asia with Europe and the United States. It means we end up working really crazy hours. So we usually start working around like 5 or 6 p.m. and work until 2 or 3 a.m. When we were in Bali, it was way worse. I was working till 4 a.m. and
5 a.m., 6 a.m.
Yeah. So we started traveling 2 months after we got married, and one of our friends who we met traveling, he called us the ultimate honeymooners. We're kind of on a never-ending honeymoon. That definitely has its challenges.
So that explains all the problems we have.
I'm an engineer, and basically what I do is I run 2 different SaaS services. Singapore was where I had my last corporate job ever. I didn't want to keep building stuff for other people. I wanted to build something for myself. And then it got closer and closer to my lease coming to an end. And I was just looking at my life up until that point. If I find a cheap place, how much is it going to cost for me to stay there for a month? So I started looking on Agoda and I was like, oh my God, I can stay in a hotel for $1,000, which is 3 times less than my rent. Why is it taking me this long to realize I could be doing all this work from Thailand or anywhere? It was just kind of like this epiphany moment, and I guess it all seems really obvious in retrospect. Yeah, ever since that point, that was 2012, August, I haven't stopped.
Being a digital nomad is about being able to live and work wherever you want. It's not about always having to be on the go, moving from country to country or city to city every week. It's just about having the freedom to choose. Like, I want to live in the country and my company is in the city, you can do that. Or my company's in the city and I want to live, I don't want to come in and commute and waste gas money and time. So I think it's more about having that freedom and that choice more than anything else.
With Buffer, I manage to work from any place. If I have internet, my laptop is my office. So it doesn't quite matter where I am, and that I really appreciate. Because then in the coffee shop in the morning, in the co-working space in the afternoon, I only commute if I want to, and that's a super cool luxury for me. I think since I joined Buffer, I've been traveling between 50 and 70% of my time. So I base in Paris, and I go outside of France, and I discover new places very, very often.
One of the ways they have really started working very differently in particular the past 20 years, is that they have started working in other places than by their desks or workstations. So this idea of flexible working, mobile working, itinerant working, nomadic working, all of these concepts, they cover more or less the same broad range of phenomenon, that people, they don't have to sit and work where the data is.
The whole digital nomad movement right now is exploding like crazy, right? And when I look back 3 or 4 years ago when I started out as a digital nomad, I remember we had a 4-hour work week meetup here in Berlin, and we met up in this bar and we were 4 people.
You can see the result of this.
And now over the years, we're now having conferences for digital nomads. There's all these blogs, there's all these events, there's all these workshops, there's all these hubs and Facebook groups. It's exploding, and there's all this new infrastructure that's happening for digital nomads.
Location independence, digital nomads, I suppose, later, have existed for a long time, and well before the 4-hour work week. What I attempted to do in the 4-hour work week was to try to codify and gather a framework and a collection of tools for people who wanted to take advantage of time and location or mobility as currencies. So, now 40 languages later, it seems like being a digital nomad, if you want to do that, is available to more people than ever before as a function of technology and also just a mind shift.
I made a site called Nomad List, which ranked, the top 100 cities based on cost of living, temperature, weather, if there's a nice place to work, for example. And that site went viral. Like, it went on the front page of Reddit. It came on Hacker News, Product Hunt, According to my data on my website, the most popular places for nomads right now are Chiang Mai, still because it's traditionally the starting place for digital nomads, Bangkok, Berlin, Budapest in Hungary, Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, Medellin in Colombia. So they're all kind of, low cost of living, warm, with fast internet.
About 2 years ago, we opened Ubud, which is the largest and the first co-working space in Bali. And a funny thing happened after we opened, which was it wasn't people like us that started coming to the space. It was this new kind of person who called themselves digital nomads. And we had never heard the term digital nomad before we opened. It was new to us. But all of a sudden we became kind of a mecca for digital nomad. We have developers, we have designers, we have startup business development people, we have photographers, we have videographers. It's really the full gamut of what is out there. We did a recent survey just last month, and now about 90% of our members consider themselves digital nomads or want to be digital nomads.
This is a villa that's associated with Ubud. They rent it out to different startups or the groups that come in. We're renting it out for the month, and there's 5 rooms upstairs, and we basically use the downstairs as our workspace, a place to have meals, things like that.
So Hacker Paradise started in the summer of 2014, and we had about 20 to 30 developers down in Costa Rica in the fall. And then it was so much fun that we just decided we wanted to keep doing it and see where it could go.
So this is the main area where people will work, where we have food, team like breakfast or lunch in the beginning of the week we do, where people get to know each other and talk about what they're working on for the week. Beanbag chairs, places, people set up a workspace. It's pretty awesome to work here. You know, you can sit here at the desk and be looking out over rice fields, and you can take a break and jump in the pool, and it's pretty ideal. You know, you can kind of get all your needs met here.
I think the first time I really heard about digital nomads was probably from like the 4-hour work week, like so many people found out about like working and traveling. One of the reasons that I wanted to travel with a group like Hacker Paradise instead of just going to myself was, I mean, first of all, because this is my first time doing the digital nomad thing, doing extended travel and working. So I wanted to find a community of people that are doing the same thing. One day I was sitting in my apartment in Montreal and it was -35. And I was like, I've had enough. And I went online and I looked up like group trips for nomads, or like where nomads meet up a lot. And I found Hacker Paradise and I applied, and 3 weeks later I got on a plane.
Hub is the first co-working space in Thailand for a very long time. So we were open since June 2012. We've been, for the past 3 years now, we're in 6 locations. For Hubba, we've now have about 150 people coming here every day. And over each month, over 100 people visit us, take a tour of the space, and many do decide to come and work. We've got a great mix of both the expat and digital nomad community. It comprises approximately half of our membership. And the rest are Bangkokians or Thais in general from all across the country that are working, living here in Bangkok.
The idea of the Nomad cruise is actually quite simple. Instead of taking an airplane, we just meet on a cruise ship with over 100 digital nomads. And on the cruise ship, we network, organize workshops, conference. And then when we enter the new continent, we travel the world, travel the continent together. We had all really very different skills. There was not just programmers, not just copywriters, but really everything.
If we wanted to dig into the cultural shift and the mind shift, you have to look at the development of technology. Similarly, you have now not just IM or Skype, you have tools like Slack, you have all sorts of off-the-rack tools that you can use to build very large companies without necessarily any headquarters, without any of the traditional accoutrements or architecture of a large company.
In an old industrial context, people would tend to work closely with people who were very close to them. And because this was the only way you could negotiate what's called mutual interdependencies. So we need to be able to talk to each other. And if you only have a carrier pigeon or a telegraph to communicate, you know, if you have a lot of complicated work, it'll be a lot of pigeons going backwards and forwards. But of course, with all the modern communication technologies we have, you could say a lot of these interdependencies can be replaced with mediated communication. They can be replaced with mobile phone, Facebook, Twitter, all of these things. So if we look at distributed teams, they have been coming for many, 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 many years. And the idea of having global development of products, of all sorts of services, global support for services and outsourcing, offshoring, all of those things have happened for 30, 40 years.
Most people who work today, even if they are in an office, they're already working remotely. They're already using email remotely, they're already using IM. Not everything is happening just in a face-to-face meeting. So there's actually not that much out of a traditional office that you have to figure out, oh, how are we going to do that?
I had my first proper 9-to-5 back when I was, I guess, maybe 26. And after a few weeks of having this Monday to Friday 9-to-5, I would be on the train, going to work, into the office, and I would be thinking, wow, so this is 30 minutes, this evening 30 minutes, that's 1 hour in a day, that's 5 hours a week, that's 20 hours a month that I'm wasting sitting on public transport. You live for the weekend, you can't wait until you can finally go home. And I was like, what is this?
Getting rid of a commute gives you more time to make dinner with my husband. We have more time to hang out. We can have coffee in the morning and talk about our day instead of rushing off. Often I will go out to meet friends at rush hour for drinks. Like they'll get together at 5 or 6 p.m. after work, and I'll find myself stuck in traffic. And I'm like, what's happening? I totally forget that everyone else in the world is like commuting, and it's a totally normal experience that I just haven't had in so long that I totally forget.
It's really becoming like unaffordable, unobtainable for a lot of people in San Francisco. And what's really happened in the last few years is that the epicenter of tech's moved into the city. And San Francisco is a really small city, and it's had strict housing development guidelines. The property development's just not happened as the speed of people coming in and out. So what we've really seen is everything's gone up ridiculous amounts. Salaries, commuting costs, living costs, rental, everything like that.
We just looked at the cost of living in San Francisco now. All of those places, the average cost is $3,100. $3,100 for a one-bedroom apartment. That's not as nice as the one we have here for under $700. Being from San Francisco, my mom was a waitress in San Francisco, I think in the early 80s, and she purchased a house on a waitress salary. Now that house in a terrible neighborhood in San Francisco is worth well over $1 million. And that doesn't even make sense now because you can't purchase a house.
The same in Holland, everybody comes to Amsterdam because of jobs. So over here it's overcrowded, overpriced, and if you want to live a cheaper life, buy a cheaper house, you just go to the north or the south. But yeah, then you don't have a job. So that's the problem. And I think that's a problem many countries are facing at the moment.
Historically, every single person has been moving towards better jobs, better career opportunities. Like the entire history of economic migration of the world has been about getting to where the jobs are. But at the same time, there is now this complete new set of people who can work anywhere, which has not been possible before, is that people have this liberty to move around and they can have a much more choice about what are the jobs they do locally or what are the jobs they take with them. And changing their location is the biggest lever they have on changing their quality of life.
If you work online, you don't need to be in the same area like Rotterdam or Amsterdam. You can work wherever you like. You just need your laptop and that's it. You don't have to be in these overcrowded, overpriced places.
Look, not everything has to happen in San Francisco. Not everyone has to be here. For people that want to live elsewhere and still access some of the best tech companies in the world, working remotely is a really great option.
When I first wanted to become a digital nomad, I researched all the options and ideas. And then I had found GitHub, which apparently is a developer's dream job. Right now, GitHub is over 300 employees, around 300, 350, and over half are remote, and half are at headquarters. So if you live in San Francisco, you can also work from home, you can work at a coffee shop, you can work anywhere you'd like. In Morocco, I will be at this co-living and co-working space called Sundesk. It's owned by a German girl. And it's a whole house, and basically we just have great internet. We work with other entrepreneurs, other companies, and we just go sun and surf on the beach. So it'll be safe. So I'm not really alone.
But do you know anybody over there?
No.
You're just meeting people for the first time?
Yep. I mean, I talked to the owner. So my parents, they really support me. They love that I travel a lot. But they're okay with my adventurous spirit. They just wish I would pick very careful places.
Yeah. Well, 5 years ago, I kind of thought, I wanted her to be traditional, but after 5 years now, I kind of think it's a little different. Whatever, my whole thing is whatever makes her happy. As long as she's happy, I'm happy.
저녁 7시가 되면 저희 사무실에 있는 모든 사람들 핸드폰으로 전화가 와요. 그래서 전화를 받으면 딸이 그래요. 아빠 언제 와? 저녁 어떻게? 이러면 계속 미안해 오늘 못 갈 것 같아 이렇게 얘기를 해요. 왜 내가 굳이 가족에게 미안한 일을 하면서 일을 하는 거지라는 생각이 든 거예요. 왜냐면 우리는 가족이랑 행복하기 위해서 일을 하는 건데 그래서 뭔가 바뀌었다라는 생각이 들었죠. 그래서 이게 아니다. 그래서 좀 더 가정의 행복을 먼저 찾을 수 있는 걸 해보자라는 생각을 하게 된 거예요. 근데 우리나라 회사에서는 그게 안 되니까.
저녁이 없죠. 우리나라에서는. 우리가 할 수 있는 일이 있고 영어를 잘 못해도 기술이 있고 그리고 내가 포트폴리오가 있으면 좀
저녁이 있는 삶을 살기 위해서 이제 대안적인 삶의 방식에 대해서 함께 고민을 하고 있었는데요. 대안적인 삶을 살기 전에 부모님께 설득을 하고 공유를 하는 과정이 필요했습니다. 그래서 단순히 이야기로 설득하는 것이 아니라 데이터나 여러 자료들을 기반으로 한 약간 설득 자료, 프레젠테이션을 만들어서 발표를 하게 되었죠. 부모님 앞에서요.
전화로 처음에는 들었는데 너무 황당했죠. 절대 안 된다 그랬죠. 지네들이 그렇게 좋은 회사 다니는데 회사를 그만두고 간다는 거는 정말 말문이 막혀서 말이 안 나왔었어요. 이제 지네들이 프로젝트 해놓은 거를 다 보여주더라고요. 그런 목표를 갖고서 지네들이 진행을 했다니까 와서 보니까 그냥 크게 반대할 수는 없다는 생각이 들었었어요.
저희가 준비하고 있는 서비스가 이제 한 2-3개 정도 있는데 그 서비스들을 런칭하고 가는 게 저희의 목표고요. 저희가 지금 한국에 살고 있는 집 같은 경우에는 그걸 에어비앤비라던가 다른 어떤 형태로든 계속 운영을 할 생각이어서 그거를 통해서 저희가 외국에서 돌아다닐 때 조금이라도 금전적인 부분에서 좀 도움을 얻을 수 있도록 할 계획이고요.
이게 결혼을 하고 나서 같은 생각을 가지고 같은 지향점을 가진 사람이 함께 일도 하고 여행도 하고 함께 미래를 그려나갈 수 있다는 것만으로도 굉장히 기대가 되고 설렙니다.
I've been a digital nomad since 2009, so about 6 years, actually. And I've been traveling for the last 2.5 years with my girlfriend. There have definitely been a few really hard moments, especially in the beginning. I mean, for her, she had this huge life change where she quit her job, was trying to start a business, left her home country for the first time. And so you have all of this, like, these major life changes going on. So, like, that was incredibly stressful on her. And then for me, I had always traveled by myself. Suddenly I'm traveling with my girlfriend and it's completely different. Like, you're having to make compromises all the time.
If you're like, oh, I quit my job to travel with you and now my life is a mess, then it's the first thing that kills the relationship. Yeah. So if we have any hard moments in this, oh yeah. I love cleaning and I love organized spaces. Mark doesn't care. He used to be like that. 20 minutes before we leave a place, he would like, oh, I'm done. And then he opened the suitcase, it's like an atomic bomb. My suitcase is, like he said, it's like a Tetris. I know exactly where everything is. And when I don't know, I start freaking out. Sorry, guys.
What's wrong?
I have no idea where's my card. Because...
Your bank card or your ID?
No, my bank card. My ID is with you. I'm a little desperate.
This happens all the time.
No, you're not taking this seriously.
We found it. Found it?
Welcome to my world. Like, I feel like I'm gonna have a stroke.
It's like the boy who cried wolf. Like, she loses so much stuff all the time that, like, I don't even get worried. Like, I get worried. I get worried when 2 hours go by because, like, 99% of the time she finds it in the most obvious place.
5 minutes.
Yeah. We actually realized at the time that it was like, all right, if we survive this, like, we're gonna be okay. And we did survive it. It got better. We started adjusting to each other. I think it's gonna be interesting going forward because people, they want the long-term relationships. They're getting more interested in marriage, kids, and I think this is going to raise a lot of challenges and questions. But yeah, I don't think anybody knows what it's going to look like, but I definitely think this is going to become a major topic.
Yeah, we have 2 daughters. Hannah, the bigger one, she was now in over 30 countries. And the little one started a bit later, so I guess she has 10 or 12 countries less on her list.
For us, it was clear we want to have kids together, but it was also clear we want to travel together. We were not sure from the beginning on how it will be to travel with kids. We decided that our first trip will be by car, that we can always come back if something happens. We visited, I think, 11 countries at this time, and it was a very beautiful time of our life, and we decided that we have to make more kids and travel more. They are used to different people, they are used to different languages. They can speak 3 languages already now. They speak Polish with me, German with Tom, and they learned English because we speak English with each other. I also know that our kids really understand this definition of different. For them, it's not only one language in the world or one way of people celebrating Christmas, because from the beginning on they knew it can be very different.
Kids can be really annoying when they say like, I want this or I don't want this, and then they stand there and they will not walk. But this can happen anywhere. That has nothing to do with trips, but with personalities. It doesn't depend too much on the circumstances from my perspective.
I first communicated in other language when I was, I don't know, probably 17 or 18. It's incredible to see how different beginning our kids have, yes?
This idea of becoming digital nomads, it didn't really exist when we started thinking about this because people didn't work remotely.
It used to be that you had to either retire or put your life on hold in order to pick up stakes and not be in the same place all the time.
And for us, the biggest obstacle was my work. My work in a law firm with clients in North Carolina was pretty rooted in the idea of being present with those people. And so we had to figure out a way to get that done and to make clients feel like they were being taken care of, even if I wasn't going to be physically present. We moved toward having everyone on the team work remotely, and we brought in a lot of new technology into the business in order to facilitate remote work. We have spent years now putting all of those pieces in place so that I can sit here in Berlin or in a co-working space in Hong Kong and run the law firm just as I would have sitting in Raleigh, North Carolina.
We've been working on this for years, and then we spent years getting rid of our house and getting rid of our possessions. During this time, we were preparing our children to be adults, and, this didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, being homeless is working out pretty well for us.
So when we started this process, we talked a lot about minimalism and materialism and getting rid of our things independently of traveling.
Going through this cleaning out of things has really caused us to reflect on materialism and to think about why we did all of the things that we did. Is I look at what I own, which is literally fits in a carry-on, and I have nothing else in the world. I mean, that's it. It just disturbs me that I spent so much energy and time thinking about wanting and searching for things, and now I don't have any of them and I don't miss them. Our experience is when we have a routine and we're living the same life, those days do feel like they fly by. But when you get up in a new place each day and you have a new experience for breakfast and where you're working and what you're doing and somewhere interesting for lunch and something different happens in the afternoon and you go for a walk in a new neighborhood you've ever been to that evening and then you have ice cream at the place that you discover, boy, your days feel like weeks if not months, and it really changes your perception of time. And as you get older, if there's anything you'd want, it's more time.
My name is Joel Gascoigne. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Buffer. We all work spread all across the world, so right now we came together to be together for 1.5 weeks in Iceland. You kind of have that full spectrum of digital nomad where maybe people travel for several months and new places. Some people are just fixed in one location. Other people are traveling like every couple of weeks. So I often don't even know where somebody is. And so what we've found is video calls are essential because you can see someone, the facial kind of emotions and everything. It's also why we have regular retreats every 6 months. We all come together in one place in the world and spend a week and a half together. You can always hear their voice when you read the emails or the text-based chat after the retreat. And so that's why we found like it has to be a combination. We've got to come together regularly, but there's benefits like, it's really great to work remotely in a distributed way as well.
Every time I go visit someone's fancy startup office, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really fun. It would be fun to visit for a while. I don't think I would want to stay. Like, there's no better office for me than at home or wherever I want to be.
That's a better question.
I think once you've had that freedom that remote work brings and had that different experience, a whole different way of working, that feeling of productivity, I think that going back to traditional work might be hard. It might not feel as fun or as happy for me as remote work does at Buffer.
If you think about how much work you actually get done at your full-time job, most people are not ashamed to tell you that I get 2 hours of work done a day, 3 hours of work done a day. And there's this joke about meetings for meetings and things like that. So why force them to sit there? Why force them to be at work? You're on Facebook or you're on Reddit or Hacker News, and you're just wasting time because you're not in the zone. You're not feeling what you need to be working on. It's kind of the opposite as a digital nomad. You structure your life around these little pockets of productivity, and they're very productive.
Some managers think, well, I have to be at the office and I have to be able to physically see the people that I'm managing. Otherwise it doesn't work. Like, how do I know if they work? Well, you hire good people and you trust them. That's how it works. You verify their work product. That's how it works. Just physically being able to see whether somebody comes in exactly at 9 or whether they stay past 4 is a very crude, rudimentary, even pre-civilization kind of way of managing people. Like, I can physically see you, I have line of sight, thus I know that you're working. So today's Monday and we're a remote company and there's nobody at the office. We have about 10, 12 people in Chicago, and some days there'll be a bunch of people, maybe 7 or 8 people. And then twice a year we fly everyone in and the office is packed because we'll have about 50 people here. This is pinning in everyone we had at the company at the last meetup. You see, there's a bunch of people spread out all over Chicago, a couple of people in Canada as well. And then the second biggest spot that we have is in the UK, me down here in the south of Spain. One person in Australia, one person in Hong Kong. That's our map of the world. When we started working together, I was in Copenhagen, Denmark, 7 time zones away from Jason here in Chicago and the rest of the team. So the whole foundation story of Basecamp is one of remote work. Even though we actually have 10 or 12 people in Chicago, the bulk of them still work from home. They come to the office occasionally because the office is an option. It's just a nice perk to have for the people who are here, and when we gather people up a few times a year, it's a great place to meet and hang out, but it's entirely optional. It's expensive to buy a big office. It's expensive to relocate people. It's hard to relocate people. To hire people all over the place, it was just so much easier to let them be there. I think remote work works for all kinds of people. I think most people who have a job to do in front of a computer otherwise producing some sort of intellectual output. Yes, if you need to manage a machine and you need to stand there and you need to move things around, of course you have to be near that machine. But less and less jobs are like that. More and more jobs these days are about sitting in front of a computer, communicating, collaborating, producing something in front of a computer. All the savings you can have on offices and so forth, that's been one of the big drivers for other big companies like IBM that's downsized their offices because they let people work from home and then they realized we don't need as many desks. Oh, we can save a whole lot on real estate.
The rise of more and more jobs that are remote work capable, right? So the more jobs that get converted into information work, the more kinds of things you can do over an internet connection from anywhere. So obviously software development, but a little less obviously writing, law, graphic design, and then less obviously still over time as we get, robotic surgery. You can do, medicine over an internet connection. Construction, you can operate drones over an internet connection. And things of that nature, you're going to be able to do more and more jobs over an internet connection. So as we start having software enter more industries, people become more capable of doing remote work.
It's interesting to see the trends about remote working. Some companies are really welcoming remote with open arms. If you think about Dell is welcoming remote working, and then it's trickling down all the way to smaller companies. What we really get to see is the work flexibility in the US and across the world is really going up. More and more people are working for themselves or with more flexibility.
Automatic has a headquarters in San Francisco. We need some place to get mail and do meetings. But the vast majority, there's only about 20 people there. So 95% of the company is outside of San Francisco. Now close to 400 people all over the world. So in over 47 countries. We have always believed that great work, collaboration can be done online.
My name is Matt Malmik. I'm a co-founding developer of WordPress.
Привет, я из Минска, Беларусь.
東京に住んでいます。
Hej, jag bor i Sverige.
Why would I ever try to uproot people and move them to San Francisco or build just an office and only hire people here? Like, it's obvious that there's so many amazing people all over the world and I want to work with them. So the internet is pretty good. Why not just hire people wherever they are?
For me, working remotely is like essential. And I'm really bad at going to an office. Like, I can't do it. After around 2 weeks of going to the same place, I get stir crazy and don't do anything. I'm also really bad living in one place, because after around a month of being somewhere, I get really bored and start having like a week of burnout where I just sit and watch TV or something. I'm much happier as a person and more productive in the long term if I have the ability to, every few hours, be like, I'm gonna go take a break now for 30 minutes and see something new. And I just find that in general that helps my particular style of working a lot more.
One interesting stat, since joining Zapier, more than half of the people have moved and moved to a completely different city, even from people who are from families. And so that's kind of, I think the lifestyle affordances that remote gives you makes it a lot easier. Even if you have a family and a little bit settled, it makes it a lot easier to decide, hey, we are going to move a little bit closer to our family, a family member who gets sick or something like that, because we can. We don't have to worry about the hassles of, resigning from this job and finding a new job elsewhere. They can just pick up and move somewhere else if need be.
There's companies that are finding new ways to work that allow people to set their own hours, have more flexibility, live wherever they want in the world. And they're going to attract the best people in the world, because the best people in the world are logically going to think, why do I have to commute to Mountain View every day and sit in a bunch of meetings and things like that? Maybe I want to live in Mountain View part of the year, but maybe during the summer I want to go to Italy or to Thailand or Australia or wherever it is. It doesn't matter. It's just giving them the flexibility to be in control of their own life. In the future, they will either be distributed or they'll be overtaken by companies that are. because the smartest people in the world are going to want to work this way.
Something that it took me 3 or 4 years to start to realize is that this is a very extreme lifestyle. This is a lifestyle that is constantly bombarding you with new experiences and new perspectives. And this can be very powerful. But what I've discovered is that it can be very powerful in both a positive and a negative way.
The idea was basically you can, by working online, by being an entrepreneur, working remotely, you can build all this freedom and independence for yourself that you couldn't do before. The nature of that idea allows for this kind of pyramid scheme to open up underneath him.
Are you sick of your ordinary, boring life? Are you tired of doing stuff you don't like and being stuck in your stupid
Oh my
cubicle
God,
every
I need
day?
to like start a website or start a company that will let me live anywhere I want. Well, what do I talk about? I have no idea. I'll just write about like going and living the dream and living on a beach and like following your own passions and all this stuff. And then they go out and they write that. They stumble across it and they pay this person money. And then all these people are like, well, what do I start? Well, I don't know, I'll start a website about like how to take more control of your life and how to live on a beach. And this pyramid scheme kind of opens up and it like fills out these like deeper and deeper niches.
Now, there's a lot of people that have an over-optimistic view of, hey, let's come to Southeast Asia, live cheap, drink, party, and do all sorts of naughty stuff, and have an amazing time.
I feel like sometimes people misinterpret that. They're always writing these stupid Medium articles and articles that they want posted about, you know, quit your job and live in Thailand for $50 a day. That doesn't work for everyone.
A lot of people are making money off of selling you the digital nomad lifestyle dream. They want you to buy their $39 ebook to sell you the dream because they're living in Bali and they need money too. So there's a lot of hype about it that it doesn't live up to, right? It's really more like, do you prefer living in an apartment in a city or do you prefer living in a house in a country? It's not that one is better than the other. It's just that these are different lifestyles.
You're not gonna automatically become rich just because you live in a cheaper country. So it really depends on what you're working on, you know, how would you monetize, how would you understand the market, how will you solve the problems.
One of the tricky part is when you live on the road every second month is the one sentence I'm saying very often when I get to meet someone is, I will be leaving in 2 weeks. Loneliness is a real thing for many reasons. When you're in your home country and it's a Friday night, you can just pick up the phone, call a friend, see what's happening, or just walk to your local bar. When we're someplace completely different, being in a small village or in a huge city doesn't matter. It's really much harder for you to be connected.
Sometimes the weekend will suddenly come and like, I've not planned any activity. I've not reached out and tried to meet people and it's just really hard. Like I didn't really have anything to do. And so sometimes that would just be a really lonely feeling, and I felt really quite down, but like more than I've ever felt.
Yeah, and they were really hard. It's really hard. Long distance relationships really suck, and it's hard to find interesting people. Not to find interesting. Yeah, that's tough. I haven't fixed that one.
I hear a lot from single nomads about being lonesome. Being married is a huge advantage. Being a couple, being nomadic, because you just don't have that issue. You're not going to be lonesome. You may have to go out and build other relationships outside of the marriage, but you've always got somebody that you can go back and talk to. And so to me, that makes this really easy. Now at the same time, we laugh about this because all the young nomads are, they're all on Tinder and, dating everybody that they can date.
Swipe.
And that's also one of the disadvantages of being a married nomad.
We have each other, to bounce things off of. I always have a calming influence when I'm freaking out about, how hot it is, or the taxi that didn't show up on time, or the train that's stuck in the middle of nowhere and I don't know where we are. Whatever the issue is, because there are going to be issues. I have backup.
And if things don't work out, I can always swipe right.
So one of the big topics of conversations between me and nomad friends, and also friends at home, is relationships. They're like, how is your love life? How is dating? And I do have to say it is harder than normal. I've talked to many, many friends, girls and guys, about dating, and a lot of them are like, Amy, you have to stay somewhere for a decent amount of time to begin dating and meet someone to stay with them long term. Like, I think that's the dilemma with nomads today. Like, when you're sick and traveling around the world, you still want people around. When you're having a bad day, you still want friends and family and people to be thinking of you.
I definitely think this lifestyle, it complicates dating in many ways. Most digital nomads, they're still pretty young, and we're all kind of aging together. And what I'm noticing is, as the years go on, this is becoming more and more of an issue. A lot more people are talking about it and are getting frustrated about it.
Where loneliness, becomes more of an issue is with the other two problems, isolation and depression. If loneliness starts to get too intense, people can start to feel isolated, especially if they're in a culture where they don't speak the language and they don't know anyone. That sense of isolation will eventually turn into depression. Where you're born or where you live doesn't always have that much of an impact on your mental health. What does have a positive impact on your mental health, though, is having a community, having, again, that support network of people that you can access. So it's really about forming that network. And that can happen anywhere. That doesn't have to be where you grew up or where you went to school or where you happen to be living in that moment.
If you're a guy living this lifestyle and you start to get lonely, it's very easy to fall into this trap of just like, some of these countries, like, prostitutes are very inexpensive. So yeah, you see a lot of guys kind of falling into that trap.
Meet hot girls and party like crazy.
Guys who have never actually experienced that intimacy or like a healthy dating relationship, they don't realize that. They just assume, like, well, dating's just about sex, and these girls want to have sex with me, so, why not?
Sex tourism is always prevalent in Southeast Asia, low-income communities across the world. And there's a lot of women that are forced into it. There's a lot of issues around the mafia. There's loads of women that are digital nomads that are part of this community. And I think and also the LGBT community. And we have to be mindful that some of the things that a lot of the digital nomads take for granted and think that it's an all-male community or male-dominated makes it, you know, uninclusive and repulsive for some people.
It's a danger of the lifestyle that definitely is taboo to talk about. Not many people talk about it openly. But yeah, it's an issue, and I think more people should talk about it.
A sexpat is a guy who's here just to, you know, maybe he's an older gentleman, he wants to hit on young Thai girls, yeah? Enjoy like the underground sex industry here in Thailand. Well, these are the people we don't want. How do we differentiate a digital nomad from that guy? Huh? These are the sorts of things that, you know, we have to think about and actually start coming up with solutions for in order to actually obtain some sort of visa program for the digital nomads. These are the tough questions that need to be asked and come up with solutions from in order for it to be implemented.
Yeah, so visas have been such a challenge because you look online and the visa information is never up to date.
And they change it every 6 months.
Yeah.
There needs to be like a universal visa.
Yes.
Just let me pay some money, a lot of money, I don't care. Give me a universal visa and make it easier and put it online.
They're here on a tourist visa and they're always doing all these tourist visa runs, go to the border, come back. Or some of them, they go a different route. Let's say they get an education visa. They go to, let's say, Thai language school, and they'll become a student for Thai language. And then they go, oh, well, yeah, we're a student visa. But then they never go to classes. I mean, look, if you want to stay in Thailand, you want to be here for a longer period of time, basically, yeah, maybe you should consider, like, okay, how can you pay taxes? If you pay taxes, that is a direct indicator that you want to be a contributing member of society. Like, oh yeah, please stay in my country, but yeah, you don't pay taxes, you don't give us anything. That doesn't sound like a good business pitch.
There are complicated legal questions when you're dealing with tax issues, with immigration issues. The one thing that I can say with absolute certainty is that you do not want to rely on the advice of people who are not well-versed in, trained in, and licensed in dealing with these issues. So I see it a lot on blogs and in various forums where nomads will ask for answers from other nomads, and that just makes no sense at all. Someone's experience as an individual is interesting and illuminating, but you really want to get your answers from somebody that is well versed in the system. Interesting story. Our son is in Thailand and was dealing with the hopping in, hopping out visa run issue. And I said to him, every month I would say, talk to an immigration lawyer. And he would say, oh, no, I've talked to some guys. And I'd talk to an immigration lawyer. And finally, after a year of doing visa runs, coming and going, he finally talked to an immigration lawyer. And what do you know? The immigration lawyer had answers to his questions and solutions to his problems.
There's very low compliance on tax laws from, to begin with, Indonesians, and then also foreigners. A lot of foreigners are here and they're not clear about what the tax rules are. And if they try to find out what they are, it's very confusing. So most people just choose to put their head in the sand and ignore their regulatory environment. I think it's really interesting for governments around the world. As all of these type of movement, this type of migration is happening, you know, you go on holiday for 2 weeks to the United States and you're managing your business in China, are you working? You know, do you need a work permit for that? I think probably not, right? But it's not clear. It's not clear.
The government will get you eventually if the numbers are high enough for the government to care. You want to figure out what the laws are, you want to figure out who you owe, you want to comply, you want to pay what you owe, and stay in compliance with all the applicable laws. It is better to do what you're supposed to do now rather than worry about when they're going to catch up with you later.
It bugs me how unconscious a lot of people, you know, like I've heard conversations between people where they brag about how they don't have to pay for visas, and they brag about how they like don't have to pay taxes in some of the places. Like, and these people are living in a country for 2-3 years. There's like starving kids all around, and they're like bragging about how like they don't have to pay taxes, and like they, you know, hired a maid for like 50 cents an hour or whatever. And it's just like, know where you're living, know what you're participating in, because whatever country you choose to spend time in, like you are participating in that society, in those systems. I do believe in the benefits of this lifestyle, and I do believe in a lot of like kind of the philosophical ideas behind it. But I feel like there's no like ethical voice talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. There is a bit of a problem when we look at how it's mostly the digital nomad lifestyle is a very Western phenomenon, or for the rich white kids who can go off and travel the world and run an online business and take advantage of all the great facilities and the infrastructure in all these developing countries. And I get that, yeah, that is a fertile ground for criticism. That's something that we need to look at.
I see all these articles that are like pushing people to travel around the world. I have a friend who lives in India, and he is a nomad. He wants to be a nomad. But being a nomad for him is so much more difficult than it is for me. I am an American citizen, and I am very fortunate to have a very powerful passport in the terms that it lets me visit most countries with very, like flexible dates of when I can leave. I can stay in one place for 90 days. With him, he easily was only given like a week, and he gets easily denied to stay longer. And, it's because the country that he is from, the passport is, not considered as powerful. And that just, it really sucks.
This is kind of the cutting edge of what's happening now. It's a very new and exciting thing, and generally like cutting edge things start in like the richest parts of the world, because you have people who are educated and wealthy enough to take these kinds of risks and try these new things.
These great programmers from all over the world come to Thailand. Okay, how do you transfer your skills onto the locals? How do you get them excited about programming? How do you mentor people so that they learn from you? These are the types of people we want to see coming here.
When I came here, I hosted a Node school for local developers to learn Node. Some people came. And if they can learn how to make their own technical stuff, then I'm not needed anymore to be here. And that's really helpful. And there's also like I'm trying to build a website for a taxi driver here because I feel like I want to help them out. And there's different ways of ameliorating the problem of just being a guy who comes in, spends money, and leaves. And as long as we're cognizant of that, I feel better.
Digital nomads can be professional. They can be remote working. They can be building million-dollar products. They can be working on distributed teams on unicorn startups across the world. They can be some of the most amazing people to talk to.
Let's look at a world where Star Trek existed, the Federation of Planets and whatnot. They didn't have like borders, they didn't have like nationalities, they were Earth. They just existed and they all lived in peace and they just went everywhere. If the world is going to move in that sort of direction, what Gene Roddenberry imagined way back in the 60s, the digital nomad lifestyle is one pathway that we can get there. It's pretty awesome.
And if you think about this from the businessman point of view, what are your options? If you want to get more revenue, more profit, you most probably need more customers. We have 1.3 million Estonians, and so what are our ways to increase our customer base? So we basically need more people. If you don't have those services that you need in your country available, but those services are available location independently from another country, and that's where the e-residency concept comes from.
After like 20 hours of this launch page, we received over 4,000 early subscribers who wanted to become EU residents from 150 different countries. So it totally spread word of mouth, just tweets. And it was amazing. This all together, this package, this company, bank account, service providers, digital signature, means that you can run location-independent business. The Estonian showroom gets 3 delegations per day for that reason, because Estonia has been successful in all e-Estonia solutions. We are helping to help other countries to also implement those platforms and get those services there. So Estonia also benefits if every country would be so digital, and then we could start communicating with each other very easily. For example, send e-tax reports automatically between every country, and everybody would pay taxes automatically. Everything would be greater. So it would be everybody's benefit that more countries would be more flexible, more agile, more innovative in that sense. Yeah.
How to get more foreign investments, how to get best talent. And then like Estonia has, like, we have found our way to compete in this war, and providing best services to the citizens and most convenient and affordable services.
E-residency program are emblematic of sort of where governments are going to be going in the next, maybe not 5 years, but 10, 20 years. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to compete for the kind of folks who are likely to start businesses, bring wealth and jobs and so on to their society. So this is actually putting governments into competition with each other in a new way. There's a really important paradigm shift as you move from the government to a government. It's the same as moving from the company to a company. Once you're mobile, a government is just a provider of natural resources, rule sets, and cultural kind of things that date to the fact that it used to be and is a geographical entity. More and more people will move, they'll pick the government that suits them best at this particular time and place. Maybe they'll move later in life.
We're still learning about the best way to set up global workforces and things like that. And I think if you get some big successes, people will start to, companies who may have thought that the only way to run an organization was with a giant headquarters in one location might start to think there's different ways to do things and experiment a little bit more.
More and more companies, they do realize they need to adapt and they need to be more innovative and make their employees happier by giving them more freedom.
The fact is, people want to work in more flexible ways, in different ways than they've been working for the last 10, 20, 40, 100 years. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, this idea of working in these massive offices in a corporate environment is no longer appealing to many, many people. And so I think digital nomads might be an extreme example, but they're an example of how the world is changing.
The world is going to get a lot more remote for various reasons. I mean, like, we have good enough technology that people can stay in touch all the time. Society in general is just more excited about travel, more excited about seeing new places, visiting new places.
Like, I think people might assume that the place they grow up is where they should be, when actually, like, you might be a lot happier somewhere else. And if you go and explore and try other places, like, you might find somewhere that just feels like a much better fit for you as a person. Like, who's to say that the place you grow up is the place that you're meant to be, right?